So, amusement parks? Theme parks? What's the difference between an amusement park and a theme park? How can you tell which is which, and does it even really matter? Well, let's talk about it. Hey everybody, so I'm doing things a little different this week. It has been a ridiculously crazy last week and a half. We've had issues with the car, which if you haven't heard about that, go check out the Facebook page. There's details there, weather and other things. Long story short, it hasn't allowed me to be able to get out and do my filming and other stuff like I would, and it's very hard to edit if you haven't filmed and other things. So we're doing the episode live this week. I am generally going to keep on the subject of amusement park versus theme parks and how can you tell the difference, because it does come up a lot of times in my feedback. And then I'll be looking at the questions and that pop up, and if they're relevant to the discussion, I'll be able to hit them. Otherwise, I'll probably hold off on the others until I do a regular live stream where I do more of the Ask Me Anything format. So, hope everybody's having a great day. So, amusement parks and theme parks. One of the things I get a lot of feedback on is, well, is this park an amusement park or a theme park? In particular, when I refer to parks like Six Flags and Cedar Point as theme parks. And if you are involved or know people who are in the roller coaster enthusiast community or those kinds of things, they tend to get very finicky about what they know and what they don't know. And there really is a little bit of a difference, but let me kind of go through what an amusement park is, what a theme park is, how they relate, how they don't, and then kind of help you be able to tell the difference. An amusement park is kind of a classic idea of a place where you go and there are rides, games, and entertainment that generally is not themed. If you think back to some of the old classic parks, Coney Island comes to mind right away, or Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, or some of those kinds of places. There are some great theme parks, or great amusement parks out there. And in fact, let me actually show you a couple here as I'm popping up the wrong thing. This is a look at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. And you can see it's this gorgeous amusement park. It's right on the beach. It's just a fantastic place. But there is not an overarching theme. It is just there. And so as you go through the beach boardwalk, you get to see all of these wonderful ideas, but there isn't an overwhelming theme. It's not a faraway location. There isn't anything that necessarily ties it all together as a theme park. It's just a collection of rides, and some of the rides are themed, but not most of them aren't, and there isn't an overall theme for the whole park. It just ties it all together. And this is kind of your idea of a classic amusement park. And there are still other examples out there, and I'll come to this one here in just a minute. But again, that's kind of what most people think of when they think of an amusement park. If you think of a park like Kennywood, if you've ever been to Kennywood, and I haven't yet, but at some point, Kennywood has this amazing collection of rides, but as you walk in, there's this roller coaster that goes right over the entrance. You actually have a place where you have Noah's Ark, and then a flying saucer, and a volcano, and they're not really tied together, and they're great individual themes for the rides, but the park itself does not have an overall individual theme. Now, there are some places that do have themes, and in fact, the picture I just showed you, which I'll pull back up, there it is. That is Holiday World, which is one of the original theme parks. And, woo, it's flickering all over the place. It's like, okay, come on. And between this and Knott's Berry Farm, they are the first ones that call themselves theme parks, and they do argue a little bit in a genuinely fun way over which is the first one. Holiday World started off as Santa Claus Land, where you go to celebrate Christmas year-round and meet Santa Claus, and they added on other areas like Halloween, where you get to see the Raven here with Mick Foley. And then Knott's Berry Farm started off as a chicken restaurant, and they added in an Old West ghost town fully themed to entertain people while they were waiting to get into Mrs. Knott's chicken restaurant. And fully themed, there weren't even rides to begin with. And gradually they began to add rides and grow up that way. But for the most part, they were just amusement parks. You could almost argue that the original Universal Studios in Hollywood was a theme park as well, because you went into a working movie studio. So there was an overriding theme, although it's debatable as to whether it was a park or just a tour at that point. And then along comes Walt Disney. And Walt Disney enjoyed taking his daughters out to these parks, and this is a well-known famous story, but he didn't necessarily like the atmosphere of them. So he decided he was going to build his own amusement park, but do it differently, and brought in themes, not just for individual rides, for the whole park, for the whole area, so that way when you walked in, you had this completely different feel. So when you walk down Main Street, well, you've actually got full Main Street that is right there, and you feel like you're someplace else in the past. So when Walt built Disneyland, Walt did something genuinely different, and it created a whole new thing that we now call a theme park, where if you go into Tomorrowland, you are in a completely different realm, not just for one ride, but the whole area. When you meet these characters walking around Fantasyland, you're in this fantastic world that doesn't exist, but completely feels real. If you go into Adventureland, it's the same thing. And so Walt really built a whole brand new thing that is right there. Taking the old idea of an amusement park, such as Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, or Eric mentions the Santa Monica Pier, the idea of an amusement park that doesn't have a theme. It may have an atmosphere, it may have architecture that all unifies and blends together. It may fit well, but it doesn't have a theme of a different place. And took a whole new spin on it, to the point where the rides were even hidden. And then you get these other places. And, Six Flags Over Texas and some of the others, well, then they start kind of murking up the water a little bit. I see Walt builds Disneyland and takes the whole idea of an amusement park, turns it into something new, into a whole new realm. And it becomes so popular, I mean hugely popular, that other people say, you know what? This is kind of cool. People like this. And so then they build things like Six Flags Over Texas, which is the original Six Flags park, and actually has 6 areas that were fully themed when it was opened, that are based on the Six Flags that used to fly over Texas. So you've got Mexico, you've got France, you've got the Old West, you've got the United States, and it was a fully themed park where everything fit into it at the time. Six Flags Over Georgia was the same idea. It was a fully themed park when it opened. It still has the entrance there. So was Six Flags St. Louis, which, yes, I love this picture because the flags aren't there. And that's really kind of symbolic of what's happened with the Six Flags parks. Six Flags was originally built as a theme park, and then they've kind of gradually forgotten the theme as they've gone through ownership changes. And if you walk into a park like Six Flags St. Louis now, you can't even tell that there was a theme at any point. There's no theming anymore. You have rides that are themed, like Mr. Freeze, and an occasional small area like around Batman, but there's not any themes, per se, which means it's really become an amusement park. If you go to Six Flags Over Texas, you can still see the themed lands, and they've got a whole new DC area, but Six Flags has kind of taken the idea of a theme park like Disney, and kind of, yes, it has it, but no, it doesn't. And it leaves this really murky in-between feel. And so it's an odd build. Six Flags Over Georgia, you can see some of the original theming, but it's not really there anymore. A great example of a theme park that's no longer a theme park is the old Great America parks. And I wish I had pictures of these when I was there as a kid. The Six Flags Great America and California's Great America both started off as Marriott's Great America, and they were fully themed, fully immersive, just fantastic parks. The one in California, it has no theme anymore. There's no theme anywhere. It's really kind of sad. Six Flags Great America up near Chicago still has some of the theming, still has definite areas, but they don't necessarily follow the theming when they put the rides in anymore. So it has now gone more amusement park. I would still call Six Flags Over Texas a theme park. But the others tend to be more amusement park, but they definitely have theme park elements. And so they can go either way. They're a theme park, but not to the same degree that Disney is, or that Busch is. Where if you walk into the Busch parks, you walk into a completely different world. The one in Florida, you've just gone to Africa, and the whole park, you feel like you're in Africa. If you're the one in Virginia, you're walking throughout Europe. And so the theming is a completely different level that adds to the atmosphere, and everything contributes to the theme first, and even the rides all fit in and help develop and build that theme. Where an amusement park, the ride kind of stands on its own and maybe just kind of dropped in. So that's really kind of your two extremes. But like I said, then you've got these parks that muddy the water. So you have Six Flags that, all right, is it a theme park or not? Again, you look at Six Flags St. Louis. What's the theming? I don't know anymore. But then Busch Gardens, Africa. You're absolutely there. And you feel like you're in Africa. If you go to Europe, this is Busch Gardens in Virginia, and you feel like you're in Ireland and in Germany, and it's wonderful. And of course, you got to drive around in Africa. Now, here's where it gets confusing: is you get places like Cedar Point. Cedar Point is a classic amusement park. It is one of the oldest amusement parks in the U.S. But then you get this part of the park where you have Maverick and Steel Vengeance that's themed to the Old West. It's not just one ride, it is actually a full section of the park that all has a unifying theme. Not all the employees dress for it, but the music contributes to it, the architecture, the rides, all of it kind of helps build that same theme in that part of the park. And so you feel like you're in a different area. So at this point, all of a sudden, Cedar Point, a classic amusement park, has a themed area. And then you get into their Frontier Trail, and oh my goodness, this totally feels like a completely different area, different era, different place. Even down to the outfits they're wearing, they all contribute to the theme. So Cedar Point, an amusement park, has theme park elements in it. And yeah, it then starts muddying the waters. Is it a theme park or not? Worlds of Fun in Kansas City is the same way. It used to have a theme, and it still has it in places. So is it or isn't it? I don't know. And that's where it really starts getting kind of confusing is, okay, Cedar Point, which for decades was just an amusement park, well, now it has theme park elements. So does that make it a theme park or not? A lot of people would say no, but at the same time, calling it a theme park because it has theme park sections and elements isn't necessarily wrong. And that's where it gets confusing. And the big thing is, does it make a difference? When you look at a park like Kings Island, which was built to replace a classic amusement park in Coney Island, and then brings in theme park elements like the Eiffel Tower and other things, well, is it theme park? Is it not? And especially the changes it's gone through over the years, because what themes it has have now been ignored. So, on your extremes, you've got the classic Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, Indiana Beach, Knoebels Grove, a lot of those old classic amusement parks. And then you have Disney and Busch Gardens, which are your extreme theme park. And then you have all the stuff in the middle. So what do you call it? Whatever you want. And that basically is kind of what it comes down to. The honest truth is, for the most part, there really isn't a difference anymore. A theme park is an amusement park. An amusement park may not necessarily be a theme park, but it may use themed elements. But there's this murky ground in the middle now where you have a lot of parks that are part theme park, part amusement park, and really you could call them pretty much either one that you want. So that's kind of the big difference here. So let me run through the questions here that people have been talking about and try to see if I can address some of those. Tweetsy Railroad, Jonah Snyder brings up, I would love to be able to get out there sometime. I have never been there, so it's hard for me to comment because I don't even know how much there isn't in Tweetsy. Israel, oh goodness, I want to get to the parks in Israel. Luna Park and Superland. And I've heard a little bit about those. One of these times I'll get there. So, but it's really interesting if you get to Six Flags Over Texas, like when we were there a couple years ago. And there's so many areas that had theming still there, but then they would put in something that didn't do it. Let's see. Thought theme parks are arcs that don't travel and move, but an amusement park was one that moved and traveled like a fair. Now, carnivals are not really amusement parks. They're fairs and they're traveling carnivals. An amusement park is a place that offers rides, games, and entertainment. So this is from Wycat's Vlogs. And so an amusement park is a permanent installation. Coney Island is the classic example of an amusement park. And you had Luna... Who? You had several different parks, and my mind just went totally blank on them there. Coney Island had Luna Park. It had Crystal Beach was out there as well. Those are all classic amusement parks. Lots of rides and games, no theme. What's my favorite amusement park? The one I'm in at the moment, which right now I'm not in one. So, but anytime I can get to one, I love it. So, let's see here. Power. Everyone, Six Flags St. Louis used to have its theming way back, but slowly over time they began to run the theme away. And Six Flags St. Louis, there were basically 3 Six Flags parks that were built from scratch. The guy that built them based the ideas kind of on what Disney did and used each state as a place where they used Six Flags from that state to design the themes. And you originally had Six Flags Over Texas, which was the first, and then I think Six Flags Georgia was the second, and Six Flags Over Mid-America, which is now St. Louis. They don't even call it the same name, but that was Six Flags Over Mid-America. And yes, it's changed a lot. But you could see parks like Worlds of Fun and Magic Mountain that used to have themes that really are ignored for the most part now. So, let's see here. How about the Amusement Park? That's cute, Brendon. I like that. So that's kind of a rundown of what makes a theme park, an amusement park, an amusement park. I hope that helps clarify the difference. If you'd like to know more, please definitely don't hesitate to comment below. Ask questions. Is a park one? Is it not? What about these kinds of things? I would love to hear your feedback like that. If you want to know more about me, check the Facebook pages. That's all in the links below as well as information about merchandise, fan pages, the equipment I use, and stuff like that. I also want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. I know a lot of you like when I get to hit the road and do other things, and that's all made possible by my patrons, and they do get some certain perks from that as well. If you want to know more about Patreon and supporting me, don't forget to check that link below as well, too. Thank you so very much, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate you joining me on this kind of spur-of-the-moment, different style episode. Hope you actually had a great time. Craig, thank you so much for the donation as well. Yes, hey, Craig's teasing about, hey, a favorite question, and yet it was a question that actually worked in the video, so thank you for that. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. Have a wonderful and blessed day. If you'd like to know about my merchandise, fan pages, and more, be sure to check the description below. If you'd like to know whenever I've got a new video posted, well, make sure you hit that button right up there and subscribe. If you'd like to watch another one of my videos, I've got a great one for you right here. And if you'd like to be like these wonderful people here and support me financially on Patreon, well, make sure you check the link right there. There's even some extra perks for them. Thank you so much, and God bless.